AITA for moving my car tracker and letting my ex's mom follow the wrong location. I'm Dylan, 34, and Rachel and I had been engaged long enough that people stopped asking when the wedding was and started asking why we hadn't picked a cake yet. We had a shared grocery list, a half-paid deposit on a reception room, and a stupid argument every Sunday about whether takeout containers counted as doing the dishes. For a long time, I thought that was what building a life with someone looked like. It wasn't glamorous. It was reminding each other to buy trash bags, arguing over thermostat settings, laughing when one of us forgot laundry in the washer for 2 days, and trying not to burn dinner after a long week. Rachel used to make those little details feel like love. She remembered exactly how I liked my coffee. She'd text me things like, "Don't forget your oil change," or "Grab paper towels if you stop anywhere." When I got home late because traffic was stupid, she'd ask if I'd eaten. At first, it felt good to be known that way. It felt like someone was paying attention because she cared. Then the questions changed. Not all at once. That would have been easier to notice. It started with small things. "Why did you go to that grocery store?" I looked up from putting milk in the fridge. "Because it was on the way." "You never go to that one." "It had parking." She didn't laugh. She just stared at me like my answer had a second answer underneath it. Another time, I got home with takeout and she said, "You left at 6:12. The restaurant is 15 minutes away. Why did it take you 42 minutes? I held up the bag. "Because they forgot the egg rolls and I waited." "You didn't text me." "I was standing at the counter." It takes 3 seconds to text. That became the rhythm of our nights. I'd walk in, set down my keys, and feel like I was stepping up to a witness stand. Why did I stop for coffee at a shop I didn't usually go to? Why was my phone on silent for 12 minutes? Why did I sit in a parking lot after buying groceries? Why did I take the long way home? Sometimes there were explanations. Sometimes I didn't even remember because the details were so ordinary they didn't stick in my head. That made Rachel more suspicious, not less. "If you have nothing to hide," she said one night, standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed, "why does it bother you when I ask?" "Because you don't ask like you want an answer," I said. "You ask like you already picked one." Her face tightened. "That's not fair." Neither is treating a gas station receipt like a confession. She cried that night. I slept on the couch because I didn't want to keep arguing until one of us said something we couldn't take back. That was my mistake, or at least one of them. When Rachel escalated, I went quiet. I told myself I was being calm. I told myself walking away was better than yelling. Sometimes I would say, "We'll talk tomorrow," then take a walk around the block or sit in my car and breathe until I could go back inside. To me, silence was a way to keep things from getting worse. To Rachel, silence became a blank space she filled with evidence. And Kelsey helped her fill it. Kelsey was Rachel's best friend, and I had never liked the way she turned every disagreement into a true crime podcast. She wasn't around for most of our fights, but somehow her fingerprints were on all of them. Rachel started saying things like, "Kelsey thinks it's weird that you're so calm." Or, "Kelsey said men who get defensive are guilty, but men who stay calm are practiced." I remember blinking at that one. So what's the innocent reaction? Rachel looked away. That's not the point. It kind of is. Then came the location sharing pressure. Rachel had asked before, casually, and I'd said no. Not because I was hiding anything. I just didn't want to live in a relationship where my movement was something to monitor. I didn't want my phone to become a leash. She brought it up again while we were folding laundry. "Couples share locations all the time," she said. "Some do. So why won't you?" "Because I don't want to." "That sounds like hiding." "No," I said, matching socks badly on purpose because I was tired and petty. "It sounds like not wanting my fiancée to check where I am every time she feels anxious." Her voice went cold. "You make me sound crazy. I'm saying anxiety doesn't get to vote on my privacy." She tossed a towel into the basket. "Kelsey said a loyal fiancé wouldn't care." I laughed once, but there was nothing funny in it. "Kelsey is not marrying me." "No, but she sees things clearly." That line stayed with me because Rachel didn't say it like an opinion. She said it like a verdict. A few weeks later, my car started making a rattling sound. Nothing dramatic. Just enough that every time I went over a bump, it sounded like loose change was trapped somewhere it shouldn't be. I took it in for routine maintenance and mentioned the noise. The mechanic called me over after about 20 minutes. He had that uncomfortable look people get when they are about to tell you something they don't want to be involved in. "Hey," he said, lowering his voice. I found something odd. He showed me a small device sealed in a plastic bag, with dirt stuck along one edge. It had been tucked up where I wouldn't have seen it unless I was under the car. I'm not saying what it is for sure, he said carefully, but I want to know if this was on my vehicle. My stomach went cold. I didn't yell. I didn't even say Rachel's name. But every question from the past month rearranged itself in my head. Why did you stop there? Why did it take 7 extra minutes? Why was your car in that lot? I asked the mechanic to take a photo of where he found it and add a note to the invoice that an unknown tracking device had been found attached to the vehicle. He raised an eyebrow, but he did it. I took my own photos too. My hands were steady in a way that didn't feel natural. Then I sat in my car in the parking lot with the device in a plastic bag on the passenger seat and called Marcus. Marcus is my cousin, 36, and one of the few people in my life who can make me less stupid when I'm angry. He answered on the second ring. What's up? I think Rachel put a tracker on my car. There was a pause. Not a dramatic one. Just enough for the sentence to land. Are you sure? No. But a mechanic found it. And suddenly, every weird question she's asked makes sense. Where are you? At the shop. Good. Don't go home and blow up. I wasn't planning to. You were absolutely planning to. I looked at the plastic bag. Maybe. Marcus sighed. Listen to me. Don't argue with a story that has already been written. Bring receipts. That sounds like something you saw on a mug. It sounds like something I'm telling you so you don't hand them a scene. People who want you to look guilty love it when you act furious. I leaned my head back against the seat. What do I do? Document everything. Photos. Invoice. Time. Who saw it? Save messages. And don't accuse Rachel until you know what you're walking into. I hated that he was right. The device itself didn't come with a confession. Maybe Rachel had done it. Maybe Kelsey had convinced her. Maybe someone else had access. Maybe I was about to accuse the wrong person and give Rachel one more reason to say I was paranoid. So I didn't confront her. I went to Marcus's place instead. He had a pile of stuff in his garage because he was helping a family friend clear out old boxes for an estate sale. There were framed prints, a lamp with no shade, and a box of donated speakers that looked like they had survived 3 basements and at least 1 flood. I stood in the garage holding the plastic bag. Marcus looked at me. You're thinking something. I'm thinking if nobody's watching this thing, nothing happens. And if somebody is watching, then they react to where it goes. He looked at the box, then at me. No hacking, no following anyone, no doing something that turns this into a bigger mess. I'm not tracking anybody, I said. I'm just letting the tracker take a trip without me. Marcus rubbed his jaw. Cold. Careful, I corrected. He gave me a look. Both. We put the device inside the speaker box. His dashcam caught us loading it into his friend's van along with everything else. The box was headed to an estate sale several counties away. I kept my own movements boring and visible. I stayed at Marcus's, ordered takeout, and parked my car directly in front of his driveway camera. Part of me hoped nothing would happen. That would have been embarrassing, but I could live with embarrassing. Maybe the thing was old. Maybe no one was checking it. Maybe Rachel's questions had been anxiety and coincidence. I didn't want to catch Rachel in a fight. I wanted to catch the truth before anyone could rewrite it. A little after 8, my phone rang. Elaine, Rachel's mother. I stared at the screen until Marcus looked over his carton of noodles. You gonna answer? I did. Before I could say hello, Elaine started yelling. Do not lie to me, Dylan. I froze. Elaine, Rachel knows where your car is. Don't insult us by lying. Marcus slowly set down his fork. My car is outside Marcus's place, I said. Don't you dare. She can see it. It's outside a motel. There it was. Not suspicion. Not a maybe. A motel. My heartbeat didn't speed up. It slowed down, which felt worse. A motel, I repeated. Yes. And don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. I don't. She told me about Jenna too. Marcus mouthed, Jenna? I shook my head. Elaine kept going. My daughter has been falling apart because of you. If you want to run around with another woman, at least have the spine to admit it. I'm sitting across from Marcus eating takeout. Then why is your car there? It isn't. Rachel has proof. I looked out the window at my car sitting under Marcus's porch light. No, I said. Rachel has a location. That's not the same thing. Elaine made a disgusted sound. You always sound so calm. That's what Rachel said you'd do. I ended the call before I said something that would become the only part of the conversation anyone remembered. A second later, my phone buzzed again. Elaine had left a voicemail, probably because she hadn't realized the call had disconnected. Her voice came through sharp and shaking. Rachel knows where your car is. Dylan, stop lying. Everyone is going to know what you did. Marcus looked at me. I put the phone down on the table, next to the receipt with the time printed on it. He said quietly, "There's your reaction." I didn't sleep much that night. Rachel texted me twice. "Where are you?" Then, "Don't make this worse by lying." I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have anything to say, because I had too much. Marcus got pulled into a family group chat I wasn't in. Not the main one. The one Rachel had made with her mother, Kelsey, a few cousins, and some relatives who apparently had nothing better to do than treat my life like a group project. Marcus showed me screenshots the next morning. "Elaine, Rachel has proof. Dylan needs to stop lying." "Cousin, proof of what?" "Kelsey, he's going to spin this. He always sounds calm." "Rachel, I didn't want to say anything until I knew." "Elaine, he's been disappearing and lying about where he goes." "Kelsey, Jenna's name keeps coming up too." "Cousin, wait, Jenna? Marcus's friend Jenna?" "Elaine, that's what Rachel thinks." "Rachel, I didn't want to drag anyone into this." That last message made me laugh in a way that had no humor in it. She didn't want to drag anyone into it. In a chat full of people she had dragged into it. I read the screenshots twice. My face got hot, then cold. I wasn't being confronted. I was being convicted in a chat I wasn't even invited to defend myself in. Jenna deserved none of it. She was an old family friend, close with Marcus, and the only reason my car had been near her driveway recently was because Marcus and I had dropped off a box of her late father's tools. Her dad had passed months earlier, and Marcus had been helping sort some things that had ended up mixed with his storage. I had carried one box from the trunk to her garage. That was it. I called her. She answered with, "Please tell me this is not about whatever garbage Rachel is saying." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry. Don't apologize unless you put my name in her mouth." I didn't. "Then clear it. I don't care what Rachel thinks about you, but she doesn't get to put my name in her accusation." "I know. You were dropping off my dad's tools with Marcus." That was it. I was in sweatpants, Dylan. My aunt was there. There was a casserole on the counter. It was the least scandalous event in human history. Despite everything, I almost smiled. "I'm going to handle it," I said. "Can I use your text explaining that if I need to?" "You can use this whole call if it helps." "And tell Elaine I said she should be embarrassed." "Fair." A minute later, Jenna sent a text. "Jenna, Dylan and Marcus dropped off my late dad's tools. That is the only reason Dylan's car was near my driveway. Do not put my name in this." I saved it. Then I started building the folder. Not just screenshots on my phone, because people love talking over phone screens. I printed the mechanic's invoice. I printed the photo of the tracker where it had been found. I printed the text thread where Rachel had asked strangely specific questions about my errands. I saved Elaine's voicemail. Marcus pulled the driveway camera clip showing my car parked outside his house at the exact time Elaine claimed it was outside a motel. He also saved the dashcam clip of us loading the speaker box into the van. I had the takeout receipt, the time, the card charge, the order number. I made a timeline. 6:18 p.m. tracker placed in donated speaker box. 6:41 p.m. speaker box loaded into van, dashcam visible. 7:03 p.m. My car parked in Marcus's driveway camera view. 8:12 p.m. Elaine call accusing me of being outside motel. 8:14 p.m. Elaine voicemail. Rachel knows where your car is. 8:15 p.m. takeout receipt at Marcus's place. The more I gathered, the less I wanted to argue. That was new for me. Usually I tried to answer every accusation. I would explain the coffee stop, the grocery receipt, the 12 minutes, the parking lot. I thought if I found the right words, Rachel would calm down. But when someone is committed to misunderstanding you, explanations just become raw material. So I stopped defending myself sentence by sentence and started building a timeline no one could interrupt. That was when the other timeline started building itself. Marcus was reviewing his driveway camera clips because we wanted the clearest video of my car outside his house. He called me over from the kitchen. "Dylan." I walked back with a bottle of water in my hand. On the screen was Rachel. Not from that night. From the previous week. She walked down the driveway wearing the jacket she always threw on when she said she was going to Kelsey's. A car pulled up at the curb. Not Kelsey's car. Eric's. Rachel's ex. I knew Eric enough to recognize him. They had dated years before me. One of those messy relationships Rachel described as important but toxic, which I always understood to mean they had both hurt each other and then romanticized the damage. He got out and hugged her too long. Then she got into his car. Marcus didn't say anything. I checked the date. That night, Rachel had told me she was at Kelsey's watching some awful show they both claimed was empowering, but mostly seemed to be people yelling in kitchens. I went back through messages. Rachel, at Kels. Don't wait up. Then, an hour later. Rachel, phone low. Text you later. My throat tightened. Marcus found another clip from 2 weeks earlier. Different jacket. Same car. Same Eric. I didn't need to prove she slept with him. That wasn't the point. The lie was enough. Then the receipts filled in the rest. We had a shared card for wedding expenses. Nothing huge, mostly deposits and errands. Rachel had used it twice at a coffee shop I didn't recognize. Another time at a motel lounge. Not for a room, but enough to show she had been there. The charges lined up with evenings she had claimed to be with Kelsey. A shared calendar notification made it worse. Rachel had added something and deleted it, but the notification still popped up on the laptop we both used at home. Closure talk, E. I stared at those 3 words until they stopped looking like words. Closure talk. The same woman who treated my coffee stops like evidence had been meeting her ex and calling it closure. I sent myself copies of the statements. I didn't dig through her private accounts. I didn't need to. The shared card, shared laptop notification, and driveway clips were enough to show she had lied. That hurt more than the tracker. The tracker was invasive, humiliating, controlling. Eric made it personal. Because suddenly Rachel's suspicion had a shape. She wasn't just afraid I would betray her. She was hiding her own betrayal, or at least her own dishonesty, and searching for a way to make me worse first. That afternoon, Rachel texted. Sunday dinner. We need to talk as a family. I showed Marcus. He snorted. That sounds like an ambush with side dishes. She wants witnesses. She wants a jury. I read the message again. There was no question in it. No apology. No, can we talk? Just a summons. Marcus leaned against the counter. You don't have to go. I know. But if you do, don't go to beg. I'm not. Don't go to convince people who wanted you guilty. I'm not. He studied me. Then why go? Because if they drag this into the family, I'm allowed to answer in the family. Marcus nodded once. Then bring receipts. I spent Saturday separating anything important. Passport, birth certificate, financial papers. The kind of documents you don't think about until trust is gone, and suddenly you don't like the idea of them sitting in a drawer anyone can open. I put them in a lockbox and left it at Marcus's. Then I emailed the reception venue and asked about refund deadlines. Just the facts. No emotional paragraph. No dramatic explanation. One clean email. Hello. I'm reviewing our contract and would like to confirm the latest date to cancel or postpone while retaining any available refund. My finger hovered over send for a long time. Sending that email felt more final than yelling would have. Sunday dinner was at Elaine's. I arrived with the folder under my arm and the evidence file ready on my phone. Rachel opened the door. Her eyes were red, but not in a way that made me soften. I had seen those tears before. Sometimes they were real. Sometimes they were a shield. I was no longer interested in guessing which. You came, she said. You asked me to. She looked at the folder. What is that? Receipts. Her face changed. Just for a second. Inside, the dining room felt too warm. Elaine had made roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Like the meal itself could make this a respectable conversation. Kelsey sat next to Rachel with her phone face down on the table, which was funny because she kept glancing at it like it might testify for her. A few relatives were there. Marcus came too, because I asked him to. Jenna didn't, because she had better self-respect than to attend a dinner where strangers had been discussing her like a plot twist. We sat down. Nobody touched the food. Rachel started soft. I didn't want to do this in front of everyone. I almost laughed. Elaine reached over and touched her hand. Honey, you don't have to protect him anymore. Rachel took a shaky breath. Dylan has been lying about where he goes. Marcus leaned back in his chair. I stayed quiet. Rachel looked around the table, gathering sympathy like kindling. For weeks, I felt like something was wrong. He got distant. He stopped answering simple questions. He acted like I was crazy for noticing things. Kelsey nodded. Because he's good at that. I looked at her. She didn't look away. A loyal fiancé doesn't need this many explanations. Elaine turned to me. Rachel has proof. What proof? Marcus asked. Elaine ignored him. My daughter has been falling apart because of you. Rachel wiped her cheek. I didn't want to believe it. But your car was at that motel. A cousin named Aaron, who had been mostly quiet, shifted in his chair. Dylan, is that true? I looked at Rachel. Are you asking if my car was at a motel? I said. Or if a tracker you hid under my car was at a motel? The room went still. Rachel's face drained. Kelsey snapped. What are you talking about? I set the folder on the table. Not slammed. Not thrown. Just placed down hard enough that everyone heard it. Then I sent the evidence file to the family group chat. Phones buzzed around the table one by one. I said, you all got the version where I cheated. Now you get the version where I was tracked. Elaine stared at her phone. Rachel whispered, Dylan. No, I said. You had your turn. I opened the folder. Page 1. Photo from my mechanic showing an unknown tracking device found attached to my car. Page 2. Maintenance invoice with the mechanic's printed note. Page 3. The tracker's fake location timeline after it was placed in a box of donated speakers going to an estate sale 3 counties away. Kelsey scoffed. So you staged something? I moved a device I didn't consent to having on my car. That's manipulative. I looked at her. Hiding it there was manipulative. Moving it was informative. Marcus coughed once into his fist. I continued. Page 4. Marcus's driveway camera showing my car parked outside his house at 8:12 p.m., the same time Elaine called to say Rachel knew my car was outside a motel. Page 5. Takeout receipt from the same night. Page 6. Elaine's voicemail. Elaine's face had gone pale. I played it. Her own voice filled the room. Rachel knows where your car is, Dylan. Stop lying. Everyone is going to know what you did. Nobody moved. Rachel looked down at her lap. Aaron looked at her. Rachel, answer the question. She shook her head. I was scared. That wasn't the question, he said. I kept my voice even. Did you put the tracker on my car? Rachel's mouth opened, then closed. Kelsey jumped in. She had a right to protect herself. Marcus said, that's not an answer either. Rachel pressed her fingers to her temples. I only checked because you kept acting distant. You put a device on my car, I said, then used its location to accuse me of cheating in a family chat. I didn't know what else to do. You could have talked to me. I tried. You interrogated me. You made me feel crazy, Dylan. There it was. The sentence she used when the facts stopped helping her. I leaned forward slightly. No, I made you feel uncomfortable because I wouldn't surrender privacy to make your anxiety easier. That is not the same thing. She started crying harder. Kelsey turned on me. So now we're humiliating her because she was scared? I slid 2 printed screenshots across the table. Kelsey, these are your messages. Her eyes flicked down. I read them out loud. He's too calm to be innocent. Then the next one. Catch him before he spins it. Kelsey's jaw tightened. I was supporting my friend. You were helping her build a cheating accusation before anyone asked me a single question. Rachel said, she was just trying to help me. No, I said, she was gasoline, but you still lit the match. Elaine finally spoke, softer now. Dylan, I thought. You thought Rachel was hurt, so you repeated whatever made me the villain. Her eyes filled. I thought I was protecting her. You protected her image, not the truth. She flinched. I didn't enjoy that. I had liked Elaine once. She was intense, but she had made space for me. Holiday meals, extra leftovers, birthday cards with too much cash tucked inside. But she had taken my name and dragged it through a group chat because it was easier than asking a question. I turned to the next page. And since Jenna's name came up, Elaine closed her eyes. I read Jenna's text. Dylan and Marcus dropped off my late dad's tools. That is the only reason Dylan's car was near my driveway. Do not put my name in this. Marcus added, I was there. Her aunt was there. There were boxes and a casserole. That's it. Aaron muttered, Jesus. I looked at Elaine. You didn't just accuse me. You dragged someone else into it because the lie needed a face. Elaine put a hand over her mouth. Rachel whispered, I didn't mean for Jenna to get hurt. But you were fine with her being useful. That landed hard. I saw it in her face. Then I took out the last set of papers. Rachel's tears slowed because she knew. Maybe not exactly what I had, but she knew the room had not reached the bottom yet. Now, Eric, I said. Elaine's head snapped toward Rachel. Kelsey went very still. I placed the shared card charges on the table, then the printed stills from Marcus's driveway camera. Rachel getting into Eric's car. Twice. The coffee shop charge. The motel lounge charge. The calendar notification. Closure talk, The room changed. Before that, people were uncomfortable. Now they were embarrassed for having participated. Rachel's voice cracked. It wasn't what you think. I almost smiled, because I had heard that line from people in stories, and I always thought it sounded weak. It sounded weaker in person. What do I think? I asked. You're making it sound like I cheated. I said you lied. Eric was just someone I needed closure with. You told me you were with Kelsey. Kelsey said quickly. She needed someone to talk to. I turned to her. You knew? She didn't answer. Rachel said, I didn't know how to tell you. So you tracked my car instead. I thought you were doing something too. You hoped I was. She looked wounded. That's not fair. No, I said. It's accurate. She shook her head. I was confused. You were guilty. There's a difference. Elaine's voice trembled. Rachel. Rachel looked at her mother like she expected rescue, but Elaine didn't move this time. That was when I knew the story had finally lost its shield. Rachel wiped her face. I didn't sleep with him. I didn't ask. Because you don't care? Because this was never only about that. She stared at me, confused and angry. I tapped the folder. You made me a suspect so you wouldn't have to admit what you were doing. You accused me of cheating, involved both families, dragged Jenna's name into it, and had your mother call me a liar based on a tracker you had no right to put on my car. Rachel's voice got small. I did it because I love you. No, I said. You did it because you wanted control. Kelsey pushed her chair back slightly. This is emotional punishment. I looked at her. You don't get to make my reputation public and then call the evidence private. She went quiet. That might have been the most satisfying silence of the night. I closed the folder. I'm pausing the wedding. Rachel jerked like I had slapped her. Dylan, no. I already asked the venue about deadlines. I'm separating the remaining payments. My documents are out of the house. Elaine whispered, out of the house. Rachel stared at me. You moved your stuff? My important stuff? So you were planning this. I was protecting myself. That's what I was doing too, she said desperately. No. Reassurance is asking me a question. Surveillance is hiding a tracker and calling it love. She covered her mouth and cried. The old version of me would have softened right there. I would have moved closer. I would have lowered my voice. I would have tried to make the room less painful, even if I was the one bleeding. But that version of me had kept the peace so long, he almost mistook being quiet for being safe. I wasn't safe with Rachel. Not emotionally. Not practically. Not if a bad feeling in her chest could become a device under my car and a public cheating accusation by dinner. I laid out my conditions because I wanted them said in front of the same people who had heard the lie. 1. You post a written correction in the family group chat. Not a vague apology. A correction. You say I didn't cheat. You say Jenna wasn't involved. And you say the motel accusation came from a tracker you placed on my car without my consent. Rachel shook her head. That's humiliating. So was being accused. Elaine closed her eyes again. 2. I continued. You apologized directly to Jenna. Rachel whispered. Okay. 3. Kelsey is no longer involved in our relationship. At all. Kelsey laughed under her breath. Convenient. I turned to her. You wanted a courtroom. Don't complain about the sentence. Marcus looked down at the table like he was trying not to smile. 4. I said to Rachel. Counseling. For you. And if we ever even discuss rebuilding, for us. 5. Tracking me again ends the relationship permanently. No debate. No excuses. No, I was scared. Rachel's voice broke. So there's still a chance? I hated that question. Not because the answer was yes. Because some small, tired part of me wanted to give her one just to make the crying stop. Instead I said, I'm not coming back because you cry. The room went silent again, but that silence felt different. Less like shock. More like people realizing they had mistaken my calm for weakness, and I had finally stopped helping them do it. I left before dessert. Marcus walked out with me. The air outside felt cooler than it probably was. I stood by my car, The same car everyone had apparently been staring at through imaginary motel windows, and let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for weeks. Marcus leaned against his truck. You okay? No. Good answer. I looked at him. I feel stupid. You're not stupid. I ignored a lot. You tried to make a relationship work. I avoided fights. Yeah, he said, and you should work on that. But avoiding a fight doesn't justify someone putting a tracker on your car. I nodded because I couldn't talk for a second. When I got to Marcus's, the group chat was already moving. I wasn't in the original one, so Marcus showed me. Rachel, I need to correct what I said about Dylan. He did not cheat on me with Jenna or anyone else. The motel accusation came from a tracker I placed on his car without his knowledge. The tracker was moved, and I reacted to the false location. Jenna was not involved in anything. Dylan and Marcus had only dropped off tools from Jenna's late father. I'm sorry for spreading this. For a few minutes, nobody responded. Then Jenna, who someone must have added or who had finally been sent the correction, wrote, Jenna, do not ever use my name like that again. Elaine wrote next. Elaine, Jenna, I owe you a direct apology. Dylan, I owe you one too. I should have asked before I repeated anything. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't enough. But it was a start. Kelsey didn't write anything. Later I heard from Erin that she tried to tell people I had weaponized evidence and created an unsafe emotional environment. Apparently nobody was in the mood. One cousin replied. He created a PDF. Rachel created a tracker. That one got screenshotted and sent to me 3 different times. Elaine called me the next day. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her voice sounded smaller. I'm sorry, she said. I waited. I should have asked you. I should have never repeated Jenna's name. I thought I was protecting Rachel, but I helped her hurt people. That was closer. Thank you, I said. I don't expect you to forgive me right now. I don't. She was quiet. Then she said, Jenna deserved better from me too. She did. I'll call her. Good. Rachel texted all day. Please come home. Then. I posted it. I did what you asked. Then. I know I messed up, but you're acting like I'm a monster. Then. Eric meant nothing. Then. I was scared because I love you. I didn't answer most of them. Not right away. When I finally did, I kept it short. You don't get trust back by completing one consequence. I need space. She called 3 times. I let them go to voicemail. On the 4th voicemail, she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. I know I hurt you. I know I went too far. I just kept thinking if I could prove something, then I'd stop feeling crazy. And then Eric was texting me, and I didn't know what I wanted, and Kelsey kept saying you were hiding things. I'm sorry. Please don't end us like this. I sat on Marcus's guest bed and listened twice. Not because it changed anything. Because I wanted to make sure I understood it. Rachel still thought the problem was that everything had gotten out of control. But the truth was, she had made choice after choice. She chose the tracker. She chose the accusations. She chose to send her mother the location. She chose to let Kelsey sharpen her fear into a weapon. She chose to meet Eric and lie about it. She chose to turn my life into a trial while she hid her own evidence in the basement. I wasn't perfect. I should have confronted the smaller problems sooner. I should have said, clearly and early, that the interrogations were damaging us. I should not have let silence become the only tool I used when conversations got exhausting. But none of that made me responsible for what Rachel did with her fear. A week later, I met her in a neutral place to talk. Marcus waited nearby, not because I thought Rachel would do anything, but because I no longer confused privacy with isolation. Rachel looked tired. No makeup, hair tied back. She had a notebook in her hands like bringing paper made the apology more serious. I started counseling, she said before we even sat down. Good. I blocked Eric. Good. I told Kelsey I need space. That's also good. She looked at me hopefully. I hated that I still cared whether her face fell. But I didn't let that care drive. I'm glad you're doing those things, I said. But I'm not moving back in. I'm not restarting wedding plans. Not now. Her eyes filled again. So what are we doing? I don't know yet. But I know what we're not doing. She swallowed. What? We're not pretending a public correction fixed a private betrayal. We're not going back to Sunday chores and takeout like I didn't spend weeks living as a suspect. And I'm not proving loyalty by surrendering privacy. Rachel looked down at her notebook. I thought if I knew where you were, I'd feel safe, she said. You didn't want to know where I was. You wanted to control what your fear could accuse me of. She didn't argue. That was new. Maybe counseling would help her. Maybe one day she would understand the difference between reassurance and surveillance. Maybe she would stop treating anxiety like evidence and boundaries like guilt. But maybe wasn't enough to build a marriage on. I took off the engagement ring that had been sitting on my keychain since I left and placed it on the table between us. Rachel covered her mouth. I'm not saying I hate you, I said. I don't. That's part of why this hurts. But I can't marry someone who turns fear into permission. She cried quietly this time. No dramatic reaching, no begging loud enough for strangers to hear. Just crying. I sat there for a minute because I wasn't trying to punish her. Then I stood up. Please apologize to Jenna yourself, I said. I will. And Elaine needs to stop managing this for you. She knows. I nodded. When I walked out, I didn't feel victorious. People expect revenge to feel like fireworks, but this felt more like turning off a loud machine that had been running so long I forgot what quiet sounded like. The fallout kept moving without me pushing it. Rachel did apologize to Jenna. Jenna accepted the apology in the most Jenna way possible. I appreciate the words. Don't contact me again unless there is a practical reason. Elaine sent a handwritten note. I didn't frame it or anything dramatic. I read it, put it in a drawer, and let it be what it was. Late, uncomfortable, and better than denial. Kelsey lost her position as Rachel's emergency judge and jury. People stopped feeding her screenshots. A couple of relatives told Marcus they regretted jumping in. Aaron texted me directly. Aaron, I should have asked you before reacting. Sorry, man. I wrote back. Dylan, appreciate it. Please remember that next time somebody's reputation becomes entertainment. He sent a thumbs up, which was about as deep as Aaron gets. The venue refunded part of the deposit. Not all of it. That stung in a practical way, but I'd rather lose money than marry into surveillance. The shared grocery list stayed on my phone for a while. One night it buzzed with an old reminder Rachel had added weeks before. Paper towels, coffee, trash bags. I stared at it longer than I should have. Then I deleted the list. That small stupid thing hurt more than I expected. Because not everything had been fake. That was the hard part. Rachel did know my coffee order. She did laugh at my dumb jokes. We did have quiet mornings that felt real. We did have a life made out of ordinary things. But ordinary love can still become control if one person decides their fear matters more than the other person's dignity. I don't know what Rachel tells people now. I know what she had to tell them then, in writing, where she couldn't cry over the facts. I know Jenna's name got cleared. I know Elaine had to sit with the embarrassment of repeating an accusation before checking it. I know Kelsey learned that supporting a friend doesn't protect you when the screenshots show you loading the gun. And I know this. I'm not cold for needing proof when someone makes me the villain. I'm not cruel for answering publicly after being accused publicly. I'm not obligated to treat surveillance like romance because it came wrapped in tears. The tracker didn't show where I was cheating. It showed me exactly where my relationship